How's it going? Welcome to this new episode of the Alex TV show. And as you can see, I have a guest, and I have the great pleasure and honor of having Luis Garre from Spain, the host of the Truth Seekers podcast. Thank you, Luis, for accepting my invitation and being here.
Well, thank you very much, Alex. Let's have a conversation. Let's bring some value and, well, let's get started. Thank you so much for inviting me.
No, thank you so much. Honestly, I became a fan of your podcast. I discovered it recently, actually. YouTube's algorithm recommended it to me. And I mean, you had a guest on your show, Ana, from Spain as well, whom I also had on my show. So I think that's where that connection came from. But I wanted to start by asking you this question. Luis, when did this thirst for discovery begin in your life? This urge to understand that this reality, well, isn't really what is presented to us, right? That there's more to it, that it's another reality, one that's modified, that's altered. And well, as your podcast title suggests, discovering, for me, the most important thing is to discover what we are, who we are. If we do that, we'll be able to understand and navigate this reality, I think, in a much better way. When did this start? How did it start? If you'd like to share with us, please do.
Well, there are different turning points, you could call them that, but it's been a very gradual process. I've always felt a calling, a desire to know, to answer those big existential questions we all ask ourselves. Even as a teenager, I was already asking myself those questions. The typical ones: who are we? What is this? What is this thing called life, really? What comes after life? Many people never even consider it, no matter their age. I was thinking about it since I was a teenager, and it's always been there for me. I've been drawn to personal and spiritual growth books for more than 15 years now, actually more than 20. And through that, I tried to find answers, just like I still do today. And I think that's the same for all of us, those I call truth seekers. I like to call them investigators because I think investigating is even more precise than searching. It seems like when you're searching, you never really find anything, right? Because the word search kind of implies that you'll always be searching constantly. And as investigators, we try to get closer to the truth, understanding that absolute truth from this plane of existence, I believe we will never have, and that it's part of the very mystery of life, of this game. Each person can call it whatever they like. But yes, it's been many years now that I've been immersed in this investigation. At first, I did it for myself. No, I wasn't looking to share content or help other people like I do today through different mentorships, courses, or books on my channels and social media. I also didn't intend to interview the most important Spanish-speaking science communicators like I'm doing now, but everything has always been driven by that desire to know, to seek those transcendental answers. And there are different turning points. We could call the most important one my own personal crisis with anxiety many years ago. I'm talking about 15 years ago or even more. I don't even remember the exact date anymore. But around that time, I had problems with anxiety, and that's when I really began a search based on understanding what we humans are beyond the physical body, something that the system, that traditional medicine hasn't really told us much about, especially when you have difficulties or mental health issues like the ones I had. It was a generalized anxiety that came after different circumstances that happened in my life and led me there because I didn't know how to manage my emotions or, well, life itself, reality itself, especially when you find yourself in toxic relationships or in a work environment that isn't good for you and you keep staying there living through those emotional ups and downs. So that's when I began that search for personal growth. I literally devoured books. I love it. I love reading. What I enjoy most is reading, digging deeper, researching, and then 2020 arrived. I had already been on that search for years. Nothing that was happening in this world made sense to me. I didn't understand it. I just couldn't understand why there was so much suffering, so much negativity, so much pain around me, in my loved ones, in my environment, in the world in general. The wars, the events, all of that never resonated with me. It never made sense to me. It was like I felt there was something hidden behind it all that I still didn't know what it was. Today, after that deep investigation I started in 2020, it's all very clear to me. That was when I wrote the books, The Descent of the Awakened, because I took advantage of that research, which, again, I did for myself in that search to understand what was happening, what was really going on, because by then, nothing that was happening in the world made any sense to me. And, well, that very deep investigation, I'm passionate about all the big existential questions about that spiritual quest and the search for truth that we all long for so much. That was what led me to write the trilogy, The Descent of the Awakened. And I went further. I kept delving deeper and deeper into what I do today, moving from helping people with generalized anxiety in terms of behavior, psychology, and emotional management. I kept searching for those answers at the deepest level, and I kept going deeper. For the past 5 years, I've dedicated myself to this fully, and that's where I found everything. I discovered the hidden government. I discovered the elites. I discovered fourth dimensional entities. I discovered the entire energetic world that I am now sharing with others. And that was the most important turning point. So from 2020 until now, which is 2025, I can tell you that I am still in that moment, continuing on this path. And so I created the podcast again to keep learning from the great channelers, sensitives, and disseminators, because I realized there was a lot of contradiction, and there still is, within the spiritual world today, since we have so much information at our fingertips, right? Through social media, the internet. It's no longer just books like it used to be. Now you put on a podcast, a YouTube channel, there are thousands, millions, and you can end up even more confused than we already are and more lost than we already are. So I started the podcast simply to give a platform to all those disseminators and let everyone draw their own conclusions. I'm still doing the research. I think that, like the great researchers worldwide on all these topics that are called conspiracy theories, but for me, it's that encounter with the truth that has been hidden from us. And that's the process I'm in. In my videos, in my content, I share everything that I'm learning myself, and I apply it to my life. I see what works based on what I believe, and that's what I teach. That's why honesty is always present. I make mistakes many times. We all make mistakes. We're all here trying to learn. So anyone who talks about absolute truths, for me, that just doesn't resonate anymore. So I share tips, advice, and recommendations, both publicly and privately, in the courses I give that work for me. And I love combining the mindset and personal growth aspect with spirituality, because I've realized that there are many people who claim to be spiritual but aren't actually living a spiritual life. Not even close, but we won't go down that path right now. And I'll explain to you what living a spiritual life means to me, which has a lot to do with keeping your feet on the ground, with solving your everyday life, and not so much with wanting to know whether the ships are coming, or if someone is going to come help us, or if the elites are going to carry out their agenda. We'll get to that in a moment, because for me, it's super important to work on your mindset, a successful mindset, so that the system doesn't dominate you and you don't become a puppet in this world where we know the system is completely corrupt, run by psychopaths, and if you don't have the right mindset, well, they'll lead you to the slaughterhouse, as happens all the time, as happened in 2020, and as continues to happen. Most people are victims of the corrupt system, as I call it, and that's why I essentially work on mindset, so that you can be successful in life and so that you don't become a puppet of the elites.
Thank you very much, Luis. In fact, I was going to say that it's great you're telling us about the services you offer and everything. And please, before I publish the video, send me anything you'd like. And I want to say this publicly right now to everyone watching us. Everything Luis gives me in terms of information will be there. I'm going to put it in the video description, and I'll also pin a comment so it's right at the top for quick access. I mean, you're very well known. I think most of the people watching us already know you, but in case there's someone like I was who doesn't know you, they can go check you out and see the services you offer. Yeah, Luis, what you're saying really resonates with me and your story as well. Let me briefly share mine to give some context. I also, without really understanding it, just by intuition since I was a kid, I used to say, this reality isn't it. It's like I'm in a place where I don't belong. I don't know if that's ever happened to you, right? And let me tell you briefly. I was born in Italy, but when I was 11 months old, my dad got a job in Mexico City, so we emigrated. It was a better opportunity. So I grew up from age 1 to 8 in Mexico City, a huge urban city, and there was a lot of poverty back then in the 1970s. And for example, when I saw people on the street covered with newspapers and all that, I didn't understand, and I would ask my parents, but why are they like that and we're not? Oh, it's because they weren't part of the program, right? My parents were very good parents, everything, but they were applying the program, which is, they didn't get ahead. It's about competition, and I would say, no, this isn't right. I mean, what is this about scarcity? I just don't get it. This isn't for me, Then I went through my teenage years. I think like most people, I became very traditional, I think even into my 20s, 30s. And also recently 2020 was also a turning point, but in 2005, 2010, that's when this intuition that this reality isn't real became very strong for me. I mean, I don't want to call it rigged or altered. It's a reality that isn't really a reality. This doesn't reflect creation. It's this thing where we're here fighting and competing with each other, and somehow we're in this constant struggle. And then a lot of people, when they get old and you ask them honestly, they don't understand what they did. It's that it was a constant struggle, a constant race. I didn't even know where I was going to end up. I didn't even know what I was going to win. And now that I'm here, I didn't understand anything. And now I'm just waiting to die. So I said, I have to change my life, right? And well, I'm a father. I'm married. I've been married for 23 years. I'm a traditional person in that sense, And I'm sharing this because I had a guest who really moved me, Marcus, who isn't Marcus. And what he said about First of all, I completely believe him that he went 6 months without eating food or drinking water. It's possible. I think that's the future of humanity, and I'll explain why. Because for us, that thing, the new age, the 5D, is searching for, that's what Marcus has, okay? It's not the crystals, the meditations, it's that. It's about harmonizing ourselves with nature so that our impact on nature, on this earth, is zero. And how is it zero? Well, I'm not going to eat, I'm not going to drink, I'm just going to breathe, nothing else. And then this reality changes completely. Now there won't be cars, there won't be cities, it's totally different. It's perhaps more like how natives or people who live in harmony with nature live, but that's the future of humanity. But at the same time, watching Marcos, I saw that in a way you were trying to make him see that, well, yes, I understand you, but at the same time, I have to live in this reality, right? And that's also where I totally agree with you, that we have to do the best we can in this reality. So what does that mean? Of course, here I am in an office. This is my workplace. I have to make money. I don't see money as important. I see it as necessary, which is completely different. It should never be the goal. But in this reality, which I insist is altered, money has been imposed as the key. So in a way, earning money works in our favor, living in this reality, even enjoying the pleasures that have been placed in this reality, right? Like enjoying friends, family, and why not food, for example. Maybe that goes against what we were saying with Marcus, but he's absolutely right that the absence of everything, the absence of all this it's our nature, of course it is, of course it is. But in this reality, we're in that conflict and our divine spark that we all have inside knows it. And that's why these intuitions sometimes come to you when you feel strange and unnatural and you're in this constant competition, but you're really programmed, like I was saying, by these people who come and say, I didn't even know what I was doing, but well, I was supposed to make more money, that if I was in a company, I had to keep climbing the ranks, that if I had a business, I had to make it grow. Always, always, always. And I don't know, you don't even know where we want to end up. So forgive me for the long explanation, but it was to give some context. This goes to what you wanted to mention, right? About how there are real tools to be spiritual in this reality, to be a divine spark. And a guest once told me, and it was the best explanation anyone could give me about the new age. She said, you go, you meditate, you vibrate high. That's what it means to vibrate high. I'm not sure, but for me, vibrating high is being spiritual. I mean, not just because of a guided meditation or a constellation or something like that, or because I put on a crystal or something, does that mean I'm vibrating high? And they do all that, and then they get home and yell at their kid, or fight with their husband, or they're in traffic honking, yelling and cursing at the person in front of them. So it's just inconsistency. I mean, in the end, it's about the easy fixes, the pill, like forgive me, religious people, please forgive me. I respect your faith, but they want to give you a pill. I go to mass on Sunday, I confess, I take communion, and then for the rest of the week, I can do whatever I want. Because in the end, Sunday is like, if they're going to cleanse me, why not just be a Christian Catholic all week long, 24 hours a day, and treat your family well, treat your friends well, treat your employees well, wish the best for everyone, have the best intentions in your heart, and recognize that this reality isn't it, but at the same time, you have to do your best to integrate into this reality and somehow function. So with this, forgive me for going on, but I leave you with this. How can we be spiritual in this reality?
Well, understanding that, I really liked your whole explanation, and I want to comment on some important points that you mentioned. For example, Marcus, I also agree that this should be the trend and that we can achieve it. And in fact, I personally know, well, I don't know Marcus in person, but I do personally know human beings who don't eat and who go for periods without eating, and they're here and they have more energy than many people who do eat. So I'm absolutely certain that human beings can achieve this. And of course, that would make us more self-sufficient, more independent, more sustainable in every sense, and therefore freer. Freer from the very system itself, because what the system wants is exactly the opposite, for you to be dependent. That's why it offers the pill for everything, for health, for food, always seeking junk food, immediate, dopamine-driven pleasure, right? Quick results without effort. And that's what people are programmed for, always looking for the easy deal, the shortcut, the stroke of luck. That's not how it is. You'll never achieve anything with that mentality. The short-term mentality is what most people follow, and that's why things go badly for them in life. And that's why I teach the successful mindset, which is a mindset that anyone can have. It can be trained, and you can make it your own, just like I did. Of course, it requires a process. From the moment we're born, we're programmed to have a mindset that's completely opposite to that of successful people. So I've always wondered what makes someone who achieves everything they set out to do different from someone who doesn't, and it's the mindset. And I'm not materialistic at all. I'm not out there chasing money for the sake of money or anything like that. But I've come to understand, as I mentioned before, that there are rules in this world. One of those rules is money. If you don't master it, the matrix and the system will control you, and you're going to have a hard time. And anyone who doesn't want to see that is just fooling themselves, unless you're someone who reaches that level of not even needing to eat, which is great. And I actually think that's the direction we should be heading, because what the system wants is the transhuman human, that is someone who lets the system impose anything on them, including microchips, as we're going to see very soon. And that's where they're taking us, toward this neuromodulation through chips and devices inside our bodies, convincing us that this is the right path, when in reality it's a path straight to the slaughterhouse, and the masses are going to follow it just like they did in 2020. But we have to go the other way, the opposite side, the natural, nature itself, everything that's truly healthy, real contact with authentic reality. I've come to understand that life is, it's a means. Physical life is a means for you to train yourself for the most important goal we all have here, which in my opinion is precisely to get out, to escape from this matrix and from this place. That's the conclusion I've come to. This is training so that through life you learn how to get out of here and never come back. No reincarnations, no school, none of that whatsoever. This is a place completely taken over by architects who are not benevolent. They are true psychopaths, including both the human elites and the entities behind them. And that's what I believe in, and it's the foundation, let's say, of what I share. Now, we're here living this life. Possibly we came here voluntarily, possibly we've been deceived many times, possibly, I don't know, even forced, and maybe others are here to help other souls awaken and get out of here. There could be many situations, but the fact is that we're here, and to me, this is a trap, not a school. So I've been making this very clear for a long time in my talks, and I see life as a kind of training ground where what I have to do is, number one, keep my frequency as high as possible. What does that mean? It means not being a victim of the system, not living a life completely adrift with problems, with worries, with fear, with in constant survival mode like most people do. So I understood that I had to master physical life, I had to master the material plane, I had to master the area of money, work, relationships, health, absolutely everything, without giving up anything. But not because I love life as it is and want to stay here and keep reincarnating. No, it's because I know that the perfect training is life itself, with all its difficulties and all the traps, the manipulation and the deceptions, you know. So from that point on, I understood that I had to master the game of matter by mastering my mind, because that's where the key to everything lies. You have to master your mindset, your belief system, because that's what will lead you to the right attitude, the right habits, and to living a life based on what you truly want to experience. And what does it mean to vibrate high? Well, vibrating high means being yourself, being at peace with yourself, feeling that you are living the life you truly want to live, not letting yourself be carried away by the social conditioning of family, acquaintances, the system, or society, but rather being authentic and telling yourself the truth, having inner calm with yourself, trying to maintain balance, emotional equanimity regardless of what happens externally. When we have understood that the main goal of the matrix is to destabilize us, to push us to emotional extremes through any kind of event, any kind, it doesn't matter, whether it's economic, work-related, it doesn't matter, health, attacks, wars, everything. Here, it's always something that repeats itself. As Jose Luis Paris used to say, if you look at one of the first newspapers ever made, when newspapers first started, right? And you look at the news and you look at a current newspaper, and we're constantly repeating wars, catastrophic events, problems, difficulties, and economic crises in a loop, and it's always the same. And it's going to stay that way, I'm sure of it. It is true that humanity is splitting, and there are, let's call them the awakened and the asleep, let's label them so we understand, but there really are conscious beings who won't let themselves be swayed by what the system says, because they've already realized that it's manipulation and deception. And the majority will continue to accept whatever the official narrative proposes, and they'll keep going down that path toward the total loss of their own essence, toward a complete disconnection from our essence, which is what we truly are. I always say that we are not human beings. We are here as humans, but we are not human beings, not in essence. We are simply using a vehicle called a human being, but in essence we are something much greater, something that has nothing to do with the human experience. This is just a brief experience in the material world for different purposes, as we are explaining. So once we understand what it means to vibrate at a high frequency, we have to give meaning to this experience, because I'm not here living bitterly, I'm not living depressed, I'm not sad, quite the opposite. I wake up every day and my focus is on my dreams, on continuing to grow and improve my life. For me, that's what gives it meaning. Maybe there are people for whom it doesn't make sense to have a purposeful life, or to want to help others through entrepreneurship, a business, or a personal brand, which is what I do. And I respect that. But for me, that's what gives meaning to this experience. And that doesn't mean that I'm in love with prison, with jail, with the bars, right? But I know that it's the smartest way to live here, it's the most strategic, and it's what keeps me focused on the right things, which are improving my physical and mental health every day, being comfortable with my relationships, my loved ones, my son, my partner, my parents, in having projects that can help people through what I can do. That's what keeps me balanced and focused where I need to be and disconnected from the whole matrix frequency, as I call it. The matrix frequency is life, as you described it, the rat race, survival mode. I don't have money. I can't make it to the end of the month. I don't like my job. I don't have free time. I'm always feeling bad. My boss makes my life impossible, where almost everyone lives. So then what they do is look for escape routes, ways to get away from a life they don't like. And the Matrix serves it up on a silver platter, giving you distraction, entertainment, and addictions. And that's where everyone falls. Because, of course, since they don't like their life, instead of focusing on the right mindset to change it from the ground up, they quickly head to the bar to drink, to get drunk, to do drugs or anything else, or to cheat on their partner, anything to disconnect from that life. That's a deception. It's self-destructive, but it's what most people do. Why? Well, because it's the easy way out. They're programmed. We've been programmed to seek comfort, the easy, quick path, believing that's where happiness lies, when if you really look, the people who truly master their lives and succeed at what they set out to do choose discomfort. They choose effort, discipline, dedication, perseverance. And that's what really leads you to a better life. But it's an uncomfortable path, and it's a path that almost no one wants. Everyone wants that final result, but they don't want to go through the process that will lead them to a better life. I could talk to you here for hours and hours about what it has cost me to get to where I am. But it's an effort, many times superhuman. I've had to give up so many things for many years because in life, nothing is free and no one gives you anything. But we're still waiting for strokes of luck, for me to win the lottery, or for the government to help me, or for someone to give me, things that are never going to happen. But it's a mental program, as always. So you have to work very hard on your mindset. That's why I connected with the spiritual growth part. You have to understand where you are, a scenario full of traps, a minefield. You have to know that the system is not your friend, quite the opposite. And you have to keep digging deeper. People are afraid to go deeper and deeper. They prefer to keep the blindfold on and not hear about the conclusions you're reaching, because they want to keep holding on to that comfort they've created, which isn't really comfortable, because that comfort is fake, and they end up living a life of survival, of lies, deceiving themselves, but they don't want to know more. They don't want to go any further. And that's where the big problem lies. And that's why you always have to start by telling yourself the truth. It's the beginning of change in your life. If you don't like your life, if there's something you want to change, if you don't start from the truth, you're not going to change it. You'll keep deceiving yourself, playing the victim, and telling yourself that you can't do anything, that the government is corrupt, that the elites have an agenda, and that you're just a puppet. I talk about agendas, I talk about the elites, I talk about the secret government, but I know that the power is within us. I can change my reality. And in fact, I have done it, and I am doing it. And there are many people living the reality they truly want to live in this world. They're not the majority, but there are many people doing it. So we can all do it. I didn't have the mindset I have today. I trained it and made it my own. Everyone can make it their own. But it's very hard to break out of the comfort that the system offers, that dependency, that quick pill to solve your problem, instead of changing habits, instead of exercising, instead of eating properly. It's very easy. It's very easy to get help, subsidies, to have your salary raised. Yeah, all of that is very easy. But if I tell you that in order to truly break through your financial ceiling and stop worrying about money, the path is entrepreneurship, most people will reject it or just won't do it, because starting a business is actually the hardest thing in a world where everything is designed to make sure you don't succeed. I've passed police entrance exams. I worked as a police officer for 16 years. I earned my position. It wasn't easy, but I can tell you that it's a million times harder to actually make a living doing what you love most. And for me, that's why I say that's the real way out of this corrupt system, this matrix, because you never truly free yourself physically, since I'm still inside the system, because we're here and because that's just how it is. But you do live more freely, you can be happier, you can give your life a better meaning than it currently has. But I want to make it clear that on a deeper level, life is just a vehicle. It's the means to train ourselves for what to me is the most important moment, when we leave our bodies and finally escape this prison. Because to me, that's what it is, a trap. And that's the conclusion that I've come to up until today. No, I don't have the absolute truth. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's the conclusion where I currently stand.
Thank you very much, Luis. Yes, I agree with you on many things. And if you like, I can briefly explain them. I approach it a little differently. I invite people. In fact, I have an exit video. I'll attach it. This video will have it as well. It's a video that's over a year old where I invite people to let go of anger, hatred, bitterness, resentment, to find some kind of harmony, and not with that whole new age love thing or anything like that. No. I want to explain it clearly. It's exactly what you said. For example, it really resonated with you when you mentioned having a job you hate. Find another job. Find another job. I mean, if you hate your job, just imagine waking up every day and going to a place you hate, and you hate your boss, and you're there watching the clock. It's 11 in the morning and you're already waiting for it to be 4 in the afternoon or whatever. Just imagine that. When it's so simple, find another job. And now, this is where I feel that money is a very curious kind of energy, because maybe it's a job that pays you less, but if you're going to be much happier, maybe it will lead you to start your own business, just like you said. I mean, in my case too, for very different reasons than yours, I didn't seek out entrepreneurship, but in 2001, I came back from a trip in September 2001, and then the whole September 11th happened. So I started looking for a job. I was going to get married the following year. I was already prepared. And in 1 or 2 months, there were no jobs available here in Mexico at that time because we depend a lot on the United States and the US was entering a recession. And that's when I decided to start a technology business. And I've now had a technology business for 24 years. And for me, I wouldn't change it for anything. So if, for example, someone listening to us doesn't like their job and they have an idea, whatever it may be, maybe a coaching business, as you mentioned, a coaching venture, the most important thing is to make the decision, just like you said. It's about losing that fear and having confidence in yourself, because I feel that's the most important thing. And you kept mentioning it, and I felt it resonated with me. Confidence in yourself. It's really about knowing that you can do anything, as you've shown, and as many others continue to show. You can do anything. The third episode I did 3 years ago on my English channel was called All Your Limits Are Self-Imposed. You set your own limits. If you say, I can take on those tough ones, I can be a soccer player, you will be able to, believe me, if you trust in yourself, right? But yes, we definitely tend to normalize ourselves, to average ourselves out, and to think there is a certain way we should be. I mean, if you don't have money, if you don't have a certain amount of money by the time you're 30, if you have a certain kind of vehicle, if you take the bus instead of driving a car, I mean, we tend to put ourselves like, I think the simplest thing is that people look at you and say, well, this one, how much does he have more or less? Well, that's just how it is, right? And likewise, someone who has much less is either worth less or is worth 3 times as much, right? So overcoming those situations, definitely money, I agree. Let money flow completely. Let yourself have all the money, but never let it control you. Never let it be the goal, because that's how you'll control that energy. That energy wants to control you. You control that energy, and whether you have little or a lot, you can control it in both situations. And an example of having little is harmonizing yourself and saying, Meow, this is what I have. I live in this part of the city. I live in a small apartment. I take the bus, but I'm happy and at peace. And every day I wake up with a smile and go to where I have to work, even if it's a bar and I'm a waiter or the bartender, or I'm happy. And in a way, you're a millionaire. And if you have millions, what I say is, if your needs are already met, just imagine the lives you could change. So I invite you in some way, maybe not by giving handouts like the government does, right? Because that's just that's not really helping. It's, for example, taking someone and saying, come on, I have a company. I'm going to bring you into my company. I'm going to train you and you're going to be my right hand. That's changing a life. I'm not saying I'm going to give you 500 euros. That's one thing. And well, you helped and you didn't help. I mean, no, I totally agree. I mean, there's a strong resonance, Luis, with what you're talking about. I completely agree. And what I encourage is personal discovery. What you talk about. Why are we here in this life? I think we come on a not a mission. Yes, we come deceived, but we come because of calls for help. That's the information that has come to me. Here, in these systems, that's how it's been handled. There are many systems like Earth where there is help. Help reaches many places in the universe, and so we come out of curiosity on an empathetic mission like, well, what happened there? And once we're trapped here, they definitely make us addicted to the experience, and then in some way they even tell you want to come back. You know, I totally agree with you that dying, that's where the key is. But you know what they tell us, Luis? I'm absolutely convinced of this, and I feel the same as you. I don't have the absolute truth, and these are just feelings and intuitions. These are just feelings. They tell us, come back one more time, one more, come back again. You just need to fix one problem. It's just that you missed one thing, come back one more time, and maybe even out of empathy, you say, all right, let's do it. It's like someone trying to sell you something you no longer want to buy, but you say, all right, I'll buy it from you one last time. And then you come back, they erase your conscious memory. And really, there's a chance you'll come back 100 more times, right? If you simply say, hey, you have to come back to fix what you did. Look, there it is. There's your life review. Look at all the judgments they're presenting to you. In unconditional love, judgment doesn't exist. In unconditional love, the only judgment I can make is the one I make about myself. That's karma. So thank you very much, but I'm not buying this from you anymore, and I'm leaving now. And your spark of guessing. I'm absolutely convinced that I can walk away from this, but it's a struggle. They're going to try it on you. There are also people who say, Luis, that when they see you like that, they can already sense you, right? They already know about you, so they don't even bother you. It's like a salesperson who tells you, I'm not going to try to sell you anything anymore because you're not going to buy. So then why should I bother trying, right? So no, I definitely think it's a very valuable message, Luis, the one you present in a way that everything in life is about having confidence in ourselves, pursuing our dreams, and having a sense of purpose in life. Because, well, it's hard to have a sense of purpose in life. For example, right now with young people who are playing video games or some who don't want to work or who want, etc. But what is your purpose in life? I mean, what is it that you want? Do you want to be a painter? Then paint. Do you want to play music? Study and play music or practice music, and it doesn't matter if you end up playing in a bar and maybe earning little, but you're following your dream. You're living your dream. I feel that there really are people who are so fulfilled, and we see them, for example, at the beach. I don't know, they're there and they take you out on a boat. And I remember once I asked one of them, but are you happy? He told me, I'm super happy. I love the sea, and every day I wake up and come to the sea. Or people who are pilots and say, I love being in the sky, and on the ground is where I don't want to be. I take off and that's where I belong. They're happy. Having a longing in life, a purpose, as you rightly say, takes effort. Yes, everything takes effort. That's just how reality is. In this reality, things require effort. And so it's up to you to decide whether you're going to invest the effort to reach your dreams.
Absolutely. And in fact, there's no such thing as a small purpose. No, it's not about everyone having a gigantic purpose.
Huge ones.
No, not at all. The important thing is to be honest with yourself. And if you're happy, like you said, for example, making bread, because that's what you love most, it excites you, you love it, and you talk to your customers and brighten their day every time they come to buy bread from you, and you can feel the energy in the bread of someone who makes it with genuine love. That is a true purpose in every sense, and it's in its right place, and it's giving, it's contributing to the world. So that's what's really important, that you feel you're where you want to be, doing what you want to do, and being who you truly are. That's the most important thing. And regarding what you mentioned about the plane between dimensions and the idea of returning or not returning, I totally agree. In the end, we always have the final say, always. And the entities, the archons, as they're called in Gnosticism, who are or were in charge, we don't even know if they're still doing it the same way nowadays. No one knows that. Until we're actually there, in those places, we won't even know what we're going to find then. But we do have some clues about what might happen there. For example, they might appear in the form of our relatives or our guide, or as whatever matches our beliefs, because they read our mental field. They can perfectly read our belief system, and that's where they have the upper hand. So they're going to know perfectly well when someone arrives there who has emptied themselves of all those matrix beliefs and who believes in themselves and trusts in their own spark of light. And as you rightly say, that person, that conscious being, they won't even bother them. But I always say something very important. The entities that interact here in the physical world with us, trying to destabilize us in every imaginable way, both in this plane, from the fourth dimension, that's where that intervention, that interference happens to destabilize the human frequency. And also from the plane between dimensions, when we pass away, these entities always need our permission. They always need our permission to do whatever they want to do. That's why there's so much manipulation in this world, so much programming in the mass media, and so much deception, ultimately. The religion program, the new age or false spirituality program, the politics program, the economics program, it's all a scam designed precisely to fill us with deceitful beliefs, with false beliefs that make us think we are what we're not. They've made us believe that we are the character, the money we have. I call that the success program. There is a false success program that makes you believe your worth is determined by what you have. And so you think your value depends on whether you have more or less power, more or fewer numbers or zeros in your bank account. If you have a better house, a better car. And that's where most people fall, believing that this is where human worth lies. And I always say your worth has nothing to do with what you have or anything material. True worth depends on what principles and values you uphold on a spiritual level as the conscious being that you are. The spiritual values and principles are the ones we all know: honesty, generosity, sincerity, kindness, transparency, humility. And that must be non-negotiable, no matter what or who. You have to be incorruptible when it comes to your values. And the system will try to corrupt you, to make you sell out, to make you sell yourself for money, to make you sell yourself for power. That's why all those politicians, if you don't have that disconnection from your essence, if you're not a dark being, you won't make it to the top, to those high-level rulers we see who are just puppets but are disconnected from their essence. Otherwise, it would be impossible for them to do what they do, right? But that's how it is. So your non-negotiable principles and values must be incorruptible, and you have to be someone who is definitely measured by their habits. For me, that's the true worth of a human being. What habits you maintain, what daily actions you take, what your deeds are. Not what you say, but what you do every day. That's where the key to everything lies. Your deeds, as the ancient teachings already said. It's the deeds, it's what you do. Because having an opinion, talking is free, and everyone is giving their opinion and saying whatever, and then you realize the inconsistency in most people's lives. That's why we have to pay attention to actions and facts, right? And from there, you get to know each person. If you hold on to those values we're talking about today, non-negotiable, incorruptible, if you measure yourself by your daily habits, not by the specific circumstances you go through, because we all experience good times, better times, bad times of all kinds. Financially, in entrepreneurship, you might do well for a while, and then not so much. And if you measure yourself by the results you keep achieving, by your bank account, by what you have materially, then one day you're worth one thing, and the next day you're worth another. But if you measure yourself by the daily habits you maintain, that's why I realized that to achieve what I wanted in my life, the only thing I needed was to trust myself. I didn't need anyone else to trust me. I was the only one who needed to trust myself. And from there, self-confidence. Together with discipline, I have always considered discipline as the foundation for success. Call it perseverance, call it consistency, call it dedication, call it daily effort. That's all we need to achieve our dreams, to trust ourselves and maintain self-discipline. But most people fail when it comes to self-discipline and self-confidence because we come from that kind of programming and because we don't have the right mindset. But if you train it and instill it in yourself, you'll develop the discipline that will, sooner or later, lead you to achieve, as you said before, whatever you set your mind to. And always maintaining those non-negotiable and incorruptible values and principles and trusting in yourself and your discipline. From there, you master the game because that's really what we have to do. If you ask me what the purpose in life is, it's to master the material, physical game we call life, to not let life control you, but for you to control your life based on your principles, your values, and how you want to live it. And then you will have trained yourself in the right way, because those who do that truly deprogram themselves from the matrix. Those who don't deprogram themselves from the matrix beliefs will live their whole lives as slaves, just being pushed around, as I mentioned, without giving meaning to their lives, without time, without money, worried, sick, because on top of that, they'll go looking for the poison solutions the system offers when their health fails, and they'll live in victimhood, not taking responsibility for their own lives. And that person will be like a ship adrift, leaving this world in a low frequency, and then will become a puppet in those realms, and possibly they'll do whatever they want with him because people believe that when you die, you become enlightened, everything ends, you ascend, and that's great. But that's not how it is. It's not like that. We already have plenty of evidence telling us that you leave this world exactly as you are here, mentally, in every way, with your belief system, your fears, your mental limitations, with everything. So you really need to train all of that very well here, very well, because you're going to cross over to the other side with whatever you manage on a mental and emotional level. And the entities that are going to read your mental field will manipulate you. They'll take you wherever they want. If you believe in whatever God you choose, or in a religion, or in an ascended master, whatever it is, they'll do with you as they please. And since you don't have personal power, which is the key to everything, we've come here to train our personal power, self-sufficiency, self-confidence, to create our own reality. That is what a God is. A God creates their own reality. They don't need anyone to come save them. They don't need anyone to solve their life for them. They solve it themselves in life on the playing field. And from there, that's how you train yourself for whatever comes next.
Absolutely, Luis. Absolutely. And I'm going to bring up Marcus again because as you were saying it, basically I would see it. Your explanation was very broad and very complete, but to sum it up, we don't need anything from the outside. We don't need absolutely anything from the outside. I just mentioned what Marcus said when during his 6 months, I think if I remember correctly, he says he lived in a cave, I believe. So he didn't even need a roof, definitely didn't need money. Apparently, not just food and drink, but the entire range of these so-called needs. And I understand that, for example, someone living on the streets, as in most countries, there are people on the streets. I have a very different opinion from the common one, since many people see them as lazy, addicts, and so on, but there are many people on the streets who are doing what Marcus did. They have already renounced this reality, and they're fine. You talk to them. A friend of mine in the United States, that was his job. He worked with people on the streets, and he told me, there are people I ask, do you need anything? They answer me, no, I don't need money, food, anything. I'm fine. I have my tent here, and I'm fine. And yes, what maybe happens is that if we let our ego and our manipulation, our programming get in the way, we think those people don't want to work. Maybe those people are addicts. We don't even know. We're just judging them. What if it's about giving up? What if they just said this reality doesn't work anymore? And now, like you said, they're just waiting for that leap. And regarding the other very important topic you mentioned about transcending, about leaving the body, or what is known here as death, what I would suggest is not to be afraid of it, to be prepared for that event to happen today. And so live your life as if today were your last day. And so, like you said, I wake up happy, I go to work happy. If I have to do a podcast, I'm happy. If I'm on vacation, I'm happy. Because we tend to think that maybe we're only happy when we're enjoying pleasures. From Monday to Friday, well, I have to go there, I have to be stuck in traffic, I have to do this and that. But on Saturday and Sunday, I go to the bar or to the beach. So then I'm happy. You can be happy 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. It's about your own self-conviction and your inner peace and not owing anything to anyone. If you had a fight with someone, just tell them from me, everything is fine. No, I don't. I want to stay angry. Then stay angry. I've already let it go. I don't hold any grudge against you anymore. I don't have any issue with you anymore. Be in harmony with everything. I feel like that prepares us so that if this moment comes, there will be fear, because the physical body, Luis, knows it's the end. I mean, this body knows that the day it dies, that's the end for it, because you can't take it with you. None of us take our bodies with us. So there is a physical fear, and there are some physical programs there, like increased heart rate, liver enzymes, that raise your chances of survival, because in the end, what you want is for your heart to keep beating one more time. If your heart stops beating, that's physical death. That's disembodiment. To live, as you say, to live without debts, not just financial ones, but without any kind of debt, to live free, to live knowing that I lived my life fully, that I lived it on my own terms, right? Of course. I recently had a guest who told me about a wake where the person who had passed away had a smile on their face, and family members said that she had lived her life, an elderly lady, completely on her own terms, totally happy, totally fulfilled. I told him, I feel like that person had a great chance of beating the trap, of reaching that plane and saying, what are you trying to sell me? If I lived my life, don't come at me saying I did this or that I did that to someone else or about my son or my mom. Don't tell me anything because you're not going to convince me. So for me, it's about not being afraid of death, which I feel is a program. Fear is a mega program of the system. What you were saying about the news and wars, and then there's a disease coming, and then something else, and now an economic crisis is coming. Fear, fear, fear of events that many times don't even happen. 9 out of 10 events we're afraid of never even materialize. It's the fear of what hasn't happened yet. So losing the fear of death by understanding first that we are eternal beings, we are an eternal divine spark. This is just a simple experience. It's as if we are actors and we're making a movie. The movie ends, but the actor doesn't end. The actor continues and will take part in another movie. And I totally agree with you that this reality isn't ready. Yes, I do feel that it will evolve. We are going to change it. The manipulation will fall away. What Marcos was saying, that's it. That's the necessary evolution. It's going to be very different without manipulation. And maybe then, yes, we will want to come back, but on our own terms. But right now, at this moment, the option is you leave, you are disincarnate. Folks, I'm leaving. I am a divine spark. I can go wherever I want. There is no physical matrix and a net, and that's not going to stop me whether it exists or not, which I doubt that there is something physical. Because if we are in an energetic plane, they say it's energetic too. We can transcend it without any problem. We live on our own terms to other places, but that's a topic for another show. Well, Luis, I know, unfortunately, our schedule is a bit tight, so we're reaching the end of this episode. Honestly, I've really enjoyed having you here. I hope I can have you back. I would love that. And I don't know if you'd like to share any final comments.
Well, first of all, thank you, Alex. I've had a great time, felt very comfortable with you, listening to you and learning, as always, observing and drawing positive conclusions and understanding that, as I was saying, the smartest thing in this life, knowing that there will be problems, that problems won't disappear, that there will be difficulties and setbacks, our goal should always be to get back up off the mat every time life knocks us down. And not just to get back up, but to rediscover ourselves with excitement, with passion, with something that keeps us wanting to live with joy, not just surviving or being here for the sake of it. No, no, no. We have to be here with joy, with a high frequency, in the sense that you have a purpose, something that moves you, that gives your life meaning. And that will always be the smartest thing you can do, no matter what has happened to you. I know that some lives are harder than others, that there are very complicated lives with great tragedies, but it doesn't matter. You can never let yourself stay down on the mat, no matter what has happened to you. I say this to many people who write to me, people with lives and experiences that are incredibly tough, things I haven't gone through myself, but there are people who do, right? And even so, I always give that advice, because otherwise this experience makes no sense. We're not here just to survive, to self-destruct, to be depressed, or to drag ourselves around here. No. This is a game of attack. It's an offensive game. That's why I always say that life is for the brave, for those who go after their dreams. Success is very relative. It's different for everyone. But if we understand it as doing what you want and what makes you happy, whatever that may be, then you have to go for it. You have to go for it because that's what will give meaning to this experience. If you take that away, if you remove that from the equation, life loses a lot of its meaning. It loses a lot of meaning because everything around you is negativity, everything is difficulties. You see people living very, very badly in every sense. So of course you can fall, you can get caught up in that experience that most people are living. So you have to create what I call a positive matrix, which each of us can create, and it has to be done by mastering your attention. Your attention is the most important thing you have in your life. Your attention has to be focused on what makes you feel good, what keeps you moving forward toward your dreams, what improves you, what strengthens you mentally, physically, energetically, and spiritually. And that's where you have to master the game, by mastering your attention. Davy Hick used to say, and I've studied him a lot, especially to understand the social, economic, and political matrix, which he explains very well. His works are very dense, but I've read everything by Davy Hick. And he said that this is a reality, that it's a trap, and he said that the game is a game of perception. There are people who master their perception, and if you master your perception in terms of where you place your attention, your reality can be harmonious and you can have a good experience. But if you don't control your attention and your perception is directed by the system, the elites, psychopaths, and everything that drives the hidden government, you could end up living a completely chaotic, hellish life and find yourself wanting to leave here, and quickly, right? So, well, that's what it's all about. That's the game. It's a game of perception. It's a game of attention, and that's where the great secret of this life lies. From there, let's live it as fully as we can. At one point, I told myself that I wasn't going to reach the end of my life with feelings of regret for not having lived the life I wanted to live. I told myself that many years ago, and that's how I'm living now. So what's happened to most people regretting on their deathbed that they lived a life different from the one they wanted won't happen to me because they've followed social conditioning or have been pleasing loved ones and living a life that other people wanted them to live. And that's something you'll always regret. And what's more, you regret it when there's no time left to turn back. And that's a very sad feeling. I told myself that wasn't going to happen to me, and it won't happen to me. And this is something we can all apply because we all still have time. None of us know when we're going to leave this world, but as long as we're alive and have life ahead of us, we still have time. I told myself that I had to be myself, that I couldn't be who society, my family, my friends, the system, my coworkers, or anyone else wanted me to be, that I shouldn't be someone different. No, I had to be myself, whether people liked it or not, and that's a philosophy of life I've applied for a long time, and it works for me because when the time comes to leave this world, which we've talked a lot about today, I'll go with the feeling of a mission accomplished, that I've tried everything within my power to be happy and to live life on my own terms, that I haven't been a puppet or a victim of the system, and I'll leave with that feeling, which I think is the ideal feeling to have in order not to come back here. There's nothing left to do here when you've lived a full life, and you've been who you wanted to be, and you've learned to let go, which is also an important lesson we need to learn. And you've maintained a high frequency. You've enjoyed everything you could as much as possible. You've tried to learn as much as you could here, because there are many experiences that can really teach you a lot on a spiritual level, and you've used life as that means I mentioned at the beginning that will give you the real treasure, which is a treasure of consciousness. That's not anything material. No one takes anything physical with them from here. It doesn't make sense. It's a treasure of knowledge, of consciousness that you take with you to the other side. And from there, you play your cards in an effective, precise way. Probably like we've never played them before in different reincarnations, because surely we've all returned in that wheel of samsara. So I think those are the most important moments we find ourselves in, making the most of life. That's why the most spiritual thing you can do is live your life with your feet on the ground and understand that the game is about mastering your own life. It's not about thinking about the afterlife or about agendas or the elites or the media or politicians or celebrities or what someone else is doing. It's about you being the protagonist of your own life and fulfilling your dreams, not just watching others achieve theirs, but actually doing what you want to do. That's the most spiritual thing we can do. And that's what will truly free us from this matrix and this system. And with that, well, I share it here for your audience, for anyone it might help.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I'll say again that any information you give me, I'll put it in a comment and in the video description for anyone who wants to check you out. Your channel is definitely recommended. I'm already a follower there. And now that we've met, I'll also be commenting on some of your videos. Thank you so much, Luis. Honestly, I really enjoyed it. And look, we managed to stick to the schedule, to the timing, and it turned out to be a perfect conversation. I'm very grateful, and I really hope we get the chance to talk again soon. I would really like that. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you very much, Alex. A big hug to you and your audience, and let's keep moving forward, because that's what life is for, to train ourselves, to enjoy, and to make the most of this opportunity. Thank you so much.
That's right. And to those watching us, thank you very much for your kind attention. Best wishes to you all. Have an excellent day. Thank you very much, and see you later, Luis.
Goodbye.
Thank you for making it to this part of the video. This is my favorite part. This is where I suggest to you that you discover your true self. You are not what you have been groomed to believe. You are this incredible being without limits that has eternal life, amazing strength, infinite wisdom, and a big, beautiful heart. All your limits are always self-imposed. Your best version in this reality is inside you. Your only mission on this life is to become a beacon of love and to serve others. This version is ready to be discovered today. How do you discover your true self? The discovery process is a personal one. No one can do it for you. Dedicate 5 minutes a day to talk to the universe. Simply ask, who am I? Where do I come from? What is my purpose? You will start getting signs, breadcrumbs, and signals. You will notice how your notions about this reality start disappearing. No more hierarchies, no more competition, no more complaining, no more depending on others. Discovering your true self equals to real freedom. Your self-imposed limits will fall and you will be ready to understand this reality, but you must be patient to allow others to wake up at their time through their own free will. That will be really soon, you will see, and that will set up a new world. As you work towards your best version, you will notice how all emotions don't serve you anymore. Hate, fear, rage, pride, lust, envy, violence, justice, true violence, judgment of others, and other emotions will disappear from your mind and heart. You will understand those emotions serve only your egoic mind and are not you. Please try to be understanding of others that don't think or feel like you. Everyone has a process. No one is right or wrong. We're all just different. Don't be concerned about being right, ever. Don't allow pride preventing you from patching things up with family and friends. It is very important you enjoy this life with your loved ones. Put in the work to patch things up and leave it to others to decide. Thank you very much for watching. Please share, like, and subscribe. If you have any comments or suggestions, please use the comment section below. For private questions, conversations, and if you would like to appear on the show, please email me at hey@thealexshow.tv. Thank you again. Please don't forget to visit our website www.thealexshow.tv. By giving me your time, you honor me. Have a very, very, very